Canadian Entertainment Podcast. Canadian Entertainment Podcast. It's a Canadian Entertainment Podcast. Canadian Entertainment Podcast. It's a 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 Canadian Entertainment Podcast. Hosted by Ben Stagger.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Canadian Entertainment Podcast. This is the number one podcast with the focus on Canadian entertainment in Canada, and we're most likely, or sure, the world right now. We're still working on getting the analytics and stats correct on that stat, but we're pretty sure it's 100% true. Just turning down the gain a little bit because there were multiple complaints about this podcast being slightly too gainy, even though I know a lot of my listeners happen to like I know a lot of my fan base and listeners happen to like a gainy podcast. And I kind of thought that gainy podcasts were part of the Canadian tradition, Canadian entertainment tradition. Guess not. Guess I'm wrong about everything. But I shall not say that because sometimes you say something negative out loud and you think of it as a joke, but your brain doesn't. Your brain doesn't understand jokes. Your brain is like, oh, actually you are an idiot, and you will think like an idiot as such. And then you say something innocuous like this one time when you start a podcast, and then you're on Jeopardy, and it's Final Jeopardy, and that Ken Jennings is there, and your brain is like, well, remember what you said that one time at the beginning of Canadian Entertainment Podcast, episode 3, where you think you called yourself an idiot, even though you're not sure you called yourself an idiot at this point in time because you don't have the greatest short-term memory right now, probably due to screen time, because you're too old to have implemented screen time as an adult, and so you had to self-taught screen time, and so this is why your short-term memory. So you might have not called yourself an idiot, but you called yourself some sort of derogatory term. Yeah, well, I'm gonna help you not be able to guess who invented the snowblower. I'm gonna help you not remember that, even though you have that lodged in your memory. I'm gonna not help you remember that, because you called yourself an idiot or something like that at the beginning of the Canadian Entertainment Podcast, episode 3. So that was about 2 to 3 minutes of that. That's a clip, absolutely. Longer clips do well. Horizontal, I've been told by many people. Anyways, thank you so much for coming back. I'm so delighted for you to join me here once again. This is the Congress of Canadian Entertainment, so let's discuss. Today was an interesting week for myself in Canadian entertainment. June winds down, and we thought about what we said a couple podcasts ago about, buddy, you don't always strike when the iron's hot. So I decided to absolutely record a version of the song that got me to the first round of Canada's Got Talent, which I fully haven't watched the audition yet. I have watched with my eyes closed, shirt overhead, ears plugged. So I've heard muffled versions, and I've kind of squinted at it. I've seen some clips from the beginning. not much after that. Anyways, so I decided to finally record the song I famously performed on there about my hometown of Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario, and that was a lot of fun to record in the Canadian Entertainment podcast studio. Also doubles as a music studio, so I just jammed, and we were happy with what we did. We released it on Wednesday or Thursday of the last week of June in 2024 to widespread critical acclaim. Had all sorts of people coming out of the woodwork to thank me. Be Lots of people I can't even mention because they didn't want their name to be behind the widespread acclaim they gave me for some reason, but whatever. But a lot of people were saying, "Wow, this is something." I think the analytics show got released around 3 to 4 days ago. 137 listens, around 26 listeners. So there are towns that size, right? 26 people. There are towns that size. So pretty much a whole town has agreed, yes, let's listen to it, and let's do about 5 streams a piece for each member of our town, and that's the one thing about this whole internet and whole streaming thing. It's like, you literally at this point, me, as I talk to myself, you could influence a whole town. You could get a whole town to be like, yeah, we dig what you just did, and we're gonna listen to it 5 times a piece. We're talking the mayor of this small town. It's not a small town. There's probably towns with half of 26. There's probably towns with around 13 people in this world. So this is a mid-sized town, 26 people. We say five streams a piece. So we got the mayor listening to it. We got the mayor's family has 3 and has a lot of kids. They might be on one subscription, so that it could perhaps be 30 people. We have the milkman, we have the candlestick maker, we have the local barber, we have the local blacksmith who's making metal stuff. We have the local plumber, the local nurse, the local doctor, the local taxi driver, the local celebrity juggling John. He's been listening to it, feeling very inspired. He might audition for Canada's Got Talent this year. We have a whole town behind us, a digital town, and we're talking about 5 streams a piece, 5 streams per person, and that is an absolutely incredible feeling, knowing that I essentially have the support of a mid-sized town in this world. Like, that just means we're just getting started. We're just revving up here in our Canadian entertainment career, and seconds to launch, right? We're at the Kennedy Space Center. We are charging up. The flames are coming, and we're getting ready to go to the moon and maybe beyond the moon. We want to go to the next universe. We want to meet Justin Trudeau in the next universe. See what he's doing in Canada in the next universe, right? Yeah, so widespread universal acclaim on the track USOKW. The song says the United States of Kitchener-Waterloo, but I felt that's a pretty long title name, so let's just go USOKW, and that was the thought process behind that. We had a lot of meetings. I had a lot of meetings with myself and some outside sources. Hired a couple of people off Indeed to really just shoot it back and forth with me about what we're going to call this thing, and we settled on USOKW. So I had the streams don't lie, and we're feeling absolutely excellent about that. But honestly, I am I like the recording. I think the harmonica sounds good. I think we got a good tone on the harmonica. We recorded some keyboard in there, which was a lot of fun to record, and it almost made me want to launch into another music era. I have been writing some of her songs, and it's like, and I had to sit myself down and said, Ben, if you go to another Canadian music era, you write another album. That's 2024 for you, buddy. That's 2024. You're gonna be missing a lot out on a lot of stuff if you go full music mode again. But you know what? Maybe I have to train myself to be able to do it in moderation, and just be able to do it and not be so locked in. But is it locking in like one of the best things you could do when you're pursuing entertainment? I don't know. You tell me. I hear a car alarm in the distance, and it is absolutely channeling my ADHD that I got diagnosed with in high school. People don't like to talk about ADHD. Well, maybe they do. It's in the news recently. Everyone's got it. And I believe that. Like, I believe a lot of people have it. There's many ways you could get. I've read a couple books. I have some hypotheses on why I got it, but that's in the memoir, which we'll talk about that in one sec. But yeah, I often find sometimes with ADHD, I will be like, sometimes like try to do one thing and then I'll hear something in the distance, and I am trying to split myself between two worlds and not fully present in the one world that I should be focused on, which is this world right here. And I kind of gave up a little bit. I was really heavily meditating for like a couple months because I heard that's what you gotta do. This is what Howard Stern does. This is what Howard Stern does. This is essentially what Howard Stern does. And Howard Stern was on Canadian radio for a bit. Allegedly, they put his show on the Canadian airwaves for a little bit, sometime in the early 2000s. So like he's Canadian adjacent. I guess some may say that's a podcast. So yes, I was like, I got meditate to be more present, but I kind of have fallen off that, but I want to get back into it. But the problem is I was thinking, even when I was meditating, I was still feeling a little crazy, or like a little I was still feeling distracted. I don't know. I really just want to go to my family doctor and say, hey, these are the parts of my brain I want removed. I saw that the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz functioned perfectly fine without a brain. He was perhaps my favorite character, and he stole the show without a brain. So surely you could remove a couple of these pieces that I'm really feel like are holding me back. And you could do that in Canada, I think. Maybe. I'm not sure. But who knows? We must forget about the car alarm going on in the distance. But if you're listening to this in a car right now, this is totally relatable to you. But as I said before, I read that in the memoir, right? And I feel like I've tried just about everything in Canadian entertainment, tried comedy, tried music, tried juggling. I tried juggling. Actually, I went to Busker Camp as a child in Waterloo. I went to Busker Camp maybe once or twice. And I tried magic and juggling there. And one time I tried magic, if you could believe this, I tried magic. That's where I wanted to set my sights. And in Busker Camp, they have you really prepare for an amazing show at the Waterloo Busker Festival in August if you go at a certain time. So we were performing. I was with 3 other friends, and we were performing this magic trick, and I had a troupe of 2 other magicians with me. And I know that even by revealing this trick, I will most likely be banned from performing at the Magic Castle if I want to perform there. But I feel like for the sake of the podcast, I need to let you know about this. So we trained all week to become a magic troupe and perform at the Busker Festival in Waterloo, Ontario, end of August. And it came time for the show. We did a daytime show outside Waterloo Town Square, pre-renovation. Yeah, that dates me, but how old am I? I don't know. We still aren't sure about the birth certificate, but whatever. So 3 of us outside Waterloo Town Square, packed audience, right? And we did this trick where we laid, I believe, 5 items on the ground. And what we said was, okay, we're going to have these 2 guys go and we're good. Okay, so we're going to say, hey, we're a magic troupe. What is going on, everybody? Nice to see you, Waterloo, Ontario, Busker Fest. And we're going to put 5 items on the ground. And would one person from the audience pick an item while me and this other magician go inside the Waterloo Town Square, and then we have our assistant / other magician kind of just supervising the whole thing. I think he was kind of an assistant. He wasn't a magician. And he'd be transparent. He's not showing any hand movements or anything like that. And so we go inside. So we would pick an item. We come back outside and we guess which item they chose out of 5 items. Now, what the trick was, so we would properly guess the item, is we categorize the items to... Sorry. We categorize the... that's how I sneeze. Isn't that insane? We categorize the items to correspond with a letter of the word brain. Okay? So there'd be an item here, and maybe it was like a sock, a basketball, a helmet, a baseball, and a funny horn or something. So that'd be the 5 items, right? And the person from the audience would pick one of them. We lettered those BRAIN so that our assistant would see which item the person picked. And then when he got to come back out, he would say, if it was this one, B, the far one, we spelled brain, he would say, bring them out. Or second one, R, he would say, ready for these guys? Bring them out. A, are you ready? I, is this gonna be awesome? Hey guys, come on out. N, never in the history of Busker Fest in Waterloo have you seen anything like this. Come out. So before we were meeting, we discussed, well, which way are we going to do brain? Like, is it going to go towards the audience, or is it going to go the other way? And there was some disagreements, and I had it one way, and I thought that's what we were doing, and I think my buddy Marcus had the other way. So our buddy, he got us out. He said, bring him out. And this girl who actually lived on my street, Jessica, I don't know if I should say her last name, but she picked something, and he said, bring him out. So we thought it was going to be that. So we came out, And I said to Jessica, I picked this up. You know, we did a little, whoa, what is this one, this one, this one? Picked it up. I said, is this your item? And she said, no, it is not. And that's why I was banned from, I'm still banned from performing at Busker Fest in Waterloo. And I was actually 25 when I was in that camp. I was 25 in a camp with, I was actually a lot younger. I was really young. I was one of the youngest people of all time to be accepted into Busker Camp. I was around 10 months, and they said this guy should become a busking magician and perform at the Waterloo Busker Festival. Thank you so much for listening to that story. I gotta hand it to you folks. I really love that you guys are supporting this. I honestly feel like since we last spoke, I was in a really awesome, amazing, hyped up, legendary mood last podcast, and this month I feel like I don't know. I felt a little emotionally turbulent as a Canadian entertainer does, and I don't know. I felt like I was doing everything right this week. But I have some suspicions. I felt, I was biking a bit more. And I felt that, if I exercise, you will stay mentally focused and mentally present and in a baseline, neutral, okay mood, ready for anything. But I felt like there's a lot of ups and downs and a lot of questioning. What's going on here? So, yeah, it caught me at an interesting time. But you know what? I was doing some reading, and sometimes when I am in these emotionally turbulent moods, I sometimes forget that I have this disease called celiac disease, which affects 1 in 100 people, allegedly. And so I think it's in Canada. I think we could fact check that. So you may have it, right? And allegedly it affects you mentally too. So somewhere over the course of this week, there could have been a breadcrumb somehow ingested. I could have got a pie in the face, a whole wheat pie in the face. I could have participated in a pillow fight where someone snuck a loaf of bread inside their pillowcase. I don't know. There's so many variable. I could have been in a Canadian pillow fight. I could have got a Canadian pie in the face. I consider a pie in the face from Moose Wadowski's. That is part under the Canadian Entertainment umbrella. I know that's a very Ontario thing, but so what? There's regional entertainment in Canada. But anyways, I kind of feel like I might have somehow ingested this poison, right? The one that affects me a lot. So maybe that is a reason why my mood has been and emotions have been so volatile. So we need to start looking for a cure for celiac disease, so there will be less volatility and less up and downs, right? We need to start looking at that. I'm looking at you, Canadian, because I know a lot of Canadian entertainers listen to this podcast. So I'm looking at you to begin the research to find a cure for this disease called celiac. One of them, people think it's a joke, and maybe I make some jokes about it, but it is not a joke because of my emotional volatility this week. But so okay, I just be raw. I just have to be raw. Raw. This is raw, but maybe not. But you know what? That's one thing we don't talk about a lot in Canadian entertainment. We never talk about the celiac Canadian entertainers, the Canadian Celiac Entertainers, the CCEs, right? We never talk about the CCEs. There's one here, but I'm sure that there are at least 2 more or 3 to 5, right? So if you are a CCE, a Canadian Celiac Entertainer, let me know. It doesn't matter if you're a juggler, a candlestick maker, a mime, a fire breather, sword swallower, a dog trainer, a stunt performer. We need to meet up and see how we could figure out how to navigate ourselves as Canadian Celiac Entertainers. Maybe we start a production company, Canadian Celiac Entertainment Productions, right? And I think that CSEP, and I think that this would essentially, we started all of us, but then I think at the end of the day, like, you know how all of us could relate to Lord of the Rings, even though it took place in a totally different place, Middle Earth. I totally think that, like, if this is just like a standard story, like, this is just like, this is a band of people looking to navigate themselves into entertainment. So a lot of people can relate to this. So I think that this could, if we make a movie or a series or we make a novel together, I think that it could have universal power, and we could get a lot of people talking about Canadian Celiac Entertainers, and we could perhaps find a cure for Canadian Celiac Entertainment. So that's something. I kind of think, like, right now, you know, TV channels are disappearing a little bit. Like, I kind of feel like it might be cheap to kind of buy get it on a TV channel right now. CCE News, Canadian Celiac Entertainment News, right? We could get that going and talk about the price of Promise bread, right? We all know Promise bread. That's a big celiac bread brand name, and I'm sure there's a Canadian celiac sandwich maker that uses that, and I consider sandwich making a form of entertainment, right? The culinary arts is a form of entertainment, so that would be a top story, right? The price going on here. We could talk about. I'm sure that there's a Canadian celiac entertainer who like drinks a cup of rice, right? And we could talk about rice prices because rice is gluten free, right? I'm sure there's a Busking Act like that. I'm sure that there is definitely a person who makes street art with like a Canadian celiac entertainer who makes street art with frozen gluten-free waffles, because if they touch like regular waffles like Eggos, their hands would burn off, or like they'd get a burn on their hands. So there would be a lot of topics we could, if we had our own news channel, and we wouldn't put it on the upgraded package. It'd be on basic cable. It'd be channel 1 to 10. Because we have to think everything comes back, just like records come back, like TV's coming back, whether you like it or not. The channels are coming for us. And Canadian Celiac Entertainment, CSE, Channel 8, Channel 9, that will be a big channel. I could see that be the next sort of like ABC or CNN, right? And that would be all across the world. We'd have CSE. People would know that, like Fox, right? People would know that, like NBC. People would know that, like CBC, right? And we'd have our own radio station as well. This would be like one of the this would be essentially what the Howard Stern show is to Sirius XM. This would be the flagship show potentially, but we'd have a board that we could vote on it, because maybe there's another because this is focused on Canadian entertainment, but maybe there's another who would focus strictly on Canadian celiac entertainment. Even so, there is so many options with CSE becoming a channel, and then essentially a radio station, and then essentially we might dabble into a record label, right? And we would sign Canadian celiac musicians, performers, entertainers, magicians. If a magician wants to release an album, right? I feel like there's magic in words too. Like a Canadian celiac magician, CCM, like, they could have an amazing. We need a magic audio album, because I want to be surprised by words. But maybe that's what comedy is, because comedy, you think it's going one way and then it elicits a funny response that you can't even control, and then you find yourself just laughing in such a magnificent way. Yeah, so I wanted to bring that up. We need to talk about Canadian Celiac Entertainers, CCEs. Yes, okay. I'm not sure if I said CSE, because celiac is spelled with a C despite it having a S sound. And I am only I have a diploma from Conestoga College and a diploma from Humber College. I didn't finish my time at University of Waterloo. Went there for half a semester, so I'm not fully educated. A lot of this is just, I taught myself my very first words, and my very first words were, I have celiac disease, and I knew it right away, right as soon as I got out of where I came from. And I'm not allowed to talk about that, but my very first words were to the doctor. I said, look, I have celiac disease and we got to do something about that. And we're saying here, what, 50, 60, 55, 60, could be 12 years later, not 100% sure. Like, celiac truly messes up with your perception of time. And this doctor hasn't done anything for me, even though my first words right out of I'm gonna, full disclosure, out of my mom, my first words to the doctor was, look, I'm a Canadian entertainer with celiac disease. What are you gonna do about it, doctor? Those were literally my first words to the doctor. As soon as I was born, as soon as I got out my mom's thing, like, I said, look, I'm a Canadian entertainer with celiac disease. We're going to need some help here. What are you going to do about that? That's a thing with celiac. You have because you're not able to eat most foods as a 99.99999% of the world is allowed to eat, your other things get enhanced, such as vocabulary. So that's why I had that vocabulary at such a young age. And I said straight after I got out, like in Grand River Hospital, I said, look, what are we going to do about this celiac thing? I know I have I know I'm a Canadian entertainer with celiac disease. What are we going to do about this, doctor? And they still have not given me an answer. So everyone, including, they paint the Canadian healthcare system as this wonderful thing, but where's my celiac cure that I asked the doctor for when I used my first words out of the womb? I literally said, look, I'm a Canadian entertainer with celiac disease, and I'm thinking about starting a podcast a couple years down the road. So can we do something about this celiac thing? And still no answer. And I'm getting a little fed up, because it's still affecting me as a Canadian entertainer with celiac disease. But it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But at the same time, who knows? Yeah. This essentially doubles as a podcast and an audio journal. This is just an audio journal, right? Think about how many pages this transcript would be. It'd be a lot. I know a lot of Canadian transcribers listen to this, so tell me how much you might think it may be. Sometimes I find myself thinking to myself, hey, we're getting into podcasting. Like, this is a new form. Like, we're playing around with the form, and who knows what could happen, right? Music was around for a few years, and then they did some genre bending. They invented rock and roll. They invented hip hop. They invented mumble rap. They invented lo-fi dream pop. So we're just getting started with the podcast form, and this essentially is audio journal format, and that's the but informative with a Canadian entertainment lens as well. So that's my genre. Audio journal format, but informative with a Canadian entertainment lens, and that could perhaps be the new rock and roll. But that's a story for a different day. But you know what? I was thinking the other night, I was like, yeah, so podcasting is a new thing, right? It's very new. But then I remembered watching Degrassi TNG. I remember Toby had a podcast, and that was a while ago. So I'm like, okay, so it's not that new. But at the same time, music had been around for quite some time before they invented different genres. So there's still some opportunity to play around. Why was Steve Jobs so obsessed with the pod? What did he see in a pod that we don't know? He had a bit of a pod obsession, the iPod, the podcast. Potty. The Apple Smart Toilet. The podcast. The iPod. The potty. The Apple Smart Toilet. So why was Steve Jobs so obsessed with the pod? The iPod, the podcast, the potty, the Apple Smart Toilet that he was working on developing. There's that laugh again. It really was. Pod racers were big at the time in Star Wars Episode 1. So it was very pod heavy at the beginning of the new millennium, and I don't know what that was all about, but then we've seen a pod resurgence with shows like Love is Blind. They do things in the pods. Was society's obsession with pods, and why hasn't this obsession come to Canadian entertainment yet, right? Sometimes Canadian entertainment could be ahead of the times, other times it can be behind the times. We've seen the pod format in multiple different ways with Apple, with Star Wars, with Love is Blind. When will there be a Canadian? When will Canadians step up to the pod format? And I think that's exactly what we're doing with the Canadian Entertainment Podcast. That's why we decided to call it such, because look, we've seen the proven track record of the pod format with the successful, which have essentially become colloquialisms in our society. The pod race, the podcast, the iPod, the smart potty, the pods from the circle, right? So that's why we said, look, Canada can rock with pods too, and we might do it bigger and badder and better than ever. So that's why we've done this with the Canadian Entertainment Podcast. Welcome us with open arms, pod community. We are here, and we are not going anywhere. This is our arrival, and no. But yes. That's my opinion on that, right? That's my absolute opinion. We're so delighted with how our one clip went on socials. People really related to the comparison between Canadian McDonald's and American McDonald's, and I found that to be incredibly touching in an incredible way. So I want to thank you all for truly relating to that. It means a lot to me. It truly means a lot to me that you would get that. We tried out another clip. We tried it out, the one about Canadian Mandela effects. But I don't know. It didn't seem like people liked it. And I thought maybe that's just a fun thing to listen to in the podcast itself. And I was like, this might be too niche. But there's nothing wrong with being niche. This whole thing's a niche, but yeah, we want some universality. So that's for the real ones, but the universal ones will know soon, and we will post that clip later on and be like, look, you're missing out on this. You dropped the ball on this. We had to remove it. We had to scrub it off the internet. This clip that I probably spent 3 to 4 hours editing, we had to scrub it off the internet because of you, but we essentially we're gonna repost it, and that's, you were wrong, but we had the right intention, but no one was ready yet. Yeah, sorry, but sorry, we say a lot in Canada. That could be it could be as popular as hockey. I don't know why Canadians say sorry so much. If you drive around, we say sorry, but do we mean sorry? I don't know. You drive around a lot in this country. Everyone's driving crazy. Why, if we gotta say sorry more when we're driving and driving crazy, and we actually have to mean it, right? But I think we're all just a little crazy when we're driving, whether it's a car, a bike, skis, walking. I consider that a form of driving. The sidewalk is very competitive. If we make a mistake, we gotta say sorry and just mean it. But there's a lot of pressure in our society to be very go, go, go. Because you have to survive. You have to go, go, go. So I think it's at the upper levels why we need to say sorry more when we're driving, and truly mean it, or why when we say sorry it's not always meant the way it should be meant. Yeah, I had a crazy week in Canadian entertainment. despite me being a little off, emotionally turbulent, I hosted bingo this week, which is another thing I do under my Canadian Entertainment umbrella. I host bingo once a month in Toronto at Collective Arts. And this was a very fun time, I found. I just felt we've had some repeat customers come on by, and they are ready to play and and some of these people I could legit see going pro. Like, that's the one thing about hosting bingo is are seeing you're seeing people play at a very high level in a small atmosphere. Like, I feel this is what it was like in Greenwich Village in the 60s, right? When you were just literally sitting at a coffee shop and you see Bob Dylan, you see Joan Baez, you see Tina Turner, right? Go up there and do something. And they weren't big stars yet, but you're seeing that. That's how I feel when I host these bingo nights. I'm thinking they could be going to the Worlds, right? Or they could be going to the like, sometimes I don't have the power to do this yet because I'm just a caller, right? Like, I don't have the power. There's a lot of sort of logistics and stuff to actually make a team that could go to the trials that would get them to play at an Olympic level. But I see a lot of these people and I start forming some teams in my head. I say Kate would be good with Robert, and we have Cheryl as the anchor, and then we have Martin as side left, and then we have Chris. He would do B wing, and then we have Roger would do O wing. Then we get there's another Martin who comes. We get him to do ING, right? Like, I just see the positions. I see I could be making a team, but I haven't been scouted yet to be kind of a team builder or have any sort of way, but I see it happening. I could see it happening at these bingo nights. I'm like, I am seeing some truly historic players, future history. I'm witnessing history right now. So it's very inspiring every time I host there. Like, I'm literally just the guy pulling the ball out of the wheel, right? I verify the cards. I make sure everything is legit. People trust me. I've been vetted to host bingo. I had to get a criminal record check, had to hand in my passport. They did a social media check. They did a blood test. They did a brain scan. They have all my fingerprints, including my toe prints. They have I had to do a stool sample, urine sample before every time I host. I have to do that, right? Just to make sure that I'm all legit up in here. Like, I'm all legit up in the air. And then we're ready to go. We're ready to spin the wheel, pull numbers, do it. And so I've been vetted, but I'm not doing what they're doing, right? Like, I'm just a ref. I'm just an officiant, right? But what they're doing on the floor is truly remarkable, and I've seen some of the best. This is entertainment too. Bingo is a form of entertainment, of course, but I have legit seen some of the best bingo players in the history of our world, right? Humans have only been around for 6,000 years? From the dawn of time, from the dawn of man, we're at the highest level right here. Like, we're truly at a turning point in the sport, right? Basketball wasn't always as popular as it was. Canadian sport, by the way, Canadian sport. It wasn't so we're seeing the same thing with bingo, and I could see it going to a national level, like the NHL, like the NBA, right? And of course, if this whole celiac Canadian Celiac Entertainment channel happens, we will be bidding on this sport because we think we could be a part of the major network, right? That would do this. And I am seeing true greatness right now, and it's bubbling, and you will see it too. And you'll say, I heard about it first on the Canadian Entertainment podcast, that Canada has an absolutely wicked bingo scene. A wicked bingo scene in a good way, not a Margaret Hamilton way, who of course played the Wicked Witch of the West. I'm sure she has a Canadian connection because duh, right? Margaret Hamilton is the GOAT. Margaret Hamilton she has inspired everything I've done. Every day I wake up and I think to myself, how can I be more like Maggie? I call her Maggie, right? Maggie Hamilton. How could I be more like Maggie Hamilton? I truly just thought what she did with that witch character. It's like, the thing is like, you read Frank L. Baum's book, and on the paper, it's like, okay, this witch character is one of the worst people of all time. I truly dislike her, and I know I should try to see the good in everyone, like the Sloan song, but I am seeing absolutely nothing. But then when it was brought to the screen in the 1930s and Margaret Hamilton played that character, I was like, why is this the most badass character I have ever seen in my life? And I want to be best friends with her and just chill out and just, I don't know, go to an escape room or something like that with Maggie, right? So cool. I love her, and Ray Bolger, who played the Scarecrow. And I don't have researcher yet, but I truly think there must be a Canadian connection with that film, The Wizard of Oz, and we will do some more research into that, because that whole thing just has Canada written all over it. The Yellow Brick Road, the 401, right? That's a big highway in Canada. Dorothy Gale, Celine Dion, right? Toto, Wyerton Willie, right? The person who tells us whether it's going to be springtime or not. The Cowardly Lion, Bowmanville Zoo, right? There's some lions and tigers there. The Tin Man, Jim Balsillie, right? Tin was used to make blackberries. The Flying Wing Monkeys, the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? That's what a lot of people call them. The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz. Jay Sankey, who's a famous Canadian magician who is on Penn and Teller Fool Us. So, yeah, there is a Canadian connection to the Wizard of Oz that no one wants to talk about. I will do more behind the scenes, but there were for sure that was inspired by Canada or something, and I consider that a Canadian movie for sure. Lots of people consider Porky's the first Canadian movie. I say no. Wizard of Oz. Yeah, I feel as if this podcast has been a little interesting, but I've been giving it my all in a lot of different ways. which is fine. I look forward to doing this. I just I do it for you guys. I hope you're enjoying it so far. Um if you could give if you give a rating, give a suggestion, let me know. My inbox is open. Let me know what you want to see. I would like to have some guests on in the future. Uh I I'd be open to what you like about it, what you think I should change, even though I could be very emotionally thin skinned, but I'm trying to get better. I'm trying. As much as I love the scarecrow, I sometimes relate to the cowardly lion, right? I'm trying not to be like him. But I do love him. But I just cannot go further in this life being like a cowardly lion. He had to get the courage, and he was granted by the wizards. So, Jay Sankey, Canadian magician, grant me the courage, buddy. No, seriously. I know maybe that's a deep cut, but maybe in the magic world, it's not. I love Jay Sankey. Thank you. And I'm sorry I revealed a magic trick earlier in from Canadian Busker or from Waterloo Busker Fest that I ruined. I was never supposed to be a magician, but I hope that doesn't bar me from seeing a show at the Magic Castle if I want to go. And know what I call the Magic Castle? The Parliament buildings. And know what I thought of the other day? I thought, wow, it's so crazy that in Harry Potter they take the Hogwarts Express to get to Hogwarts. Why don't they take the magic school bus, right? Like, wouldn't that make more sense? Like a magical school bus. Anyways, that's just something I was thinking about, and maybe I'll put that in the act. It's funny, but with a bit of truth to it, which all good Canadian stand up bits start that way. But anyways, thank you everybody for joining me on this journey. This was so interesting. Who knows if we got any clips, but I think this was just a very long form special. You guys are the reason why we do this. I hope you didn't turn off when there was a moment in there where I was like, this is brutal. But you know what? I forget what I was talking about, but like, you gotta show it all. You gotta say this is one cut. We're keeping it all in. And maybe I shouldn't keep it all in, but at the same time, you gotta show the whole process. A podcast is about process, right? Everything you gotta see. You gotta see the good, the bad, and the ugly. Right? I always love that film with it was very interesting. And they weren't lying. There was a good guy, there was a bad guy, and there was an ugly guy. And they were all Clint Eastwood. I'm just kidding. Clint. But yeah, this was helpful to help me try to get out of this emotional turbulence I've been feeling this week due to a possible cross-contamination or due to not knowing thyself enough. I gotta get back into meditation. I gotta not just rely on, oh, I'm biking, this is gonna make me feel better mentally. I gotta get a workout coach. I gotta start doing kickboxing, and I gotta get a meditation coach. If you know any of those in Canada, perhaps one that does all three, let's have them on the pod. I consider all those forms of Canadian entertainment, meditation, kickboxing, working out. So Thank you once again for doing this. This was fun. There was some very Canadian entertainment moments. We will be back with another episode, but this is the one we have right now, and we are we could not be more proud of this episode. So thank you very much. I love you. God bless you. And we'll see you very soon. My name is Ben Stagger, and this has been the Canadian Entertainment Podcast. Bye for now.